In the same manner, close in to the base of Sinai, we saw the clear image of a double-wall corral leading up to a slaughter area and an altar of earth and uncut stone. Just behind the altar is a dry stream bed running from the mountain all the way into the valley below. Moses cast the remnants of the golden calf into the brook that came out of the mount, according to Deuteronomy 9:21. Here you can see the fence that the Saudis have erected to keep people out of this area. It is extensive and encloses a guard outpost visible here. They are quite serious about keeping the eyes of the world off this mountain.
Wow.
That is a lot of information.
And that's 3 minutes of 6 of the roll-ins that we've brought. But it is a tremendous amount of information. And to watch that just, you know, it brings it back so vividly in my mind. It gives me chills to see just how this is preserved. And we're going to get in further into each one of the areas that we talked about. The golden calf altar, a place where Moses built the altar where he sacrificed oxen. The pillars that he erected, each one representing one of the 12. So we're going to see that as well.
It became very apparent to us that they had no intention of allowing this information to leave that country.
Sure.
So it became very clear to us that our mandate then must be getting a film record of what is there. Film and still photography and anything we could, just in case they ever decided to eradicate it. I would hope and pray that they would never do such a thing. But, you know, in the geopolitical climate we live in right now, where all the earth seems to want to wipe Israel off the map, I'm not well convinced that they would not try to rid themselves of any sort of Israeli history.
Well, they did it on the Temple Mount. Why not?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And now they claim the temple didn't even exist. So
let's bring up photos 2 through 10, and we'll kind of just step through these, maybe a couple seconds each. And that is our original slide. There we go.
There we go. This is the mountain that we do believe is the real Mount Sinai. We're looking from the north to the south. It's actually called Jebel Makla, and you can see it's a very different color from all the surrounding mountains. There's argument as to whether or not it's charred black or whether that's just natural basalt, but to us there's so many other reasons why this mountain is the real Mount Sinai. It's almost a moot point to us. But if you go ahead and bring up the next one, this we believe is Mount Horeb. This is properly called Jebel Lawz. It's about, from peak to peak, what, about 5 miles?
About 5 miles across.
The area is enormous. This Jebel Lawz, we believe sincerely, is Mount Horeb for a lot of different reasons, but one of which is there is something in the Bible called the Rock of Horeb. You never hear it spoken of as the rock at Sinai. And if you make Sinai and Horeb the same mountain, then you've got a problem with where you locate the rock that Moses struck that the waters came from, which we'll be able to show you, we believe, pretty clearly here just shortly.
Next slide.
But these two mountains, it's interesting, that is Jim right there that you see. September 24th of 1992, we finally made it to the top of what we believe to be Sinai. And you can see the distance now. Where the arrow's pointing, we believe that is Horeb, and that split rock is on
with the guards going
other
up
side.
there?
Oh, yeah, there were problems. We managed to figure out other ways to get up there.
Okay.
Well, we didn't
There were
go
problems.
from the front. We would drive around to the back, jump out of the truck with backpacks on, hide the truck, and run as fast as we could to get away from the truck and disappear up into the mountains.
And we've spent
we were
5
able to-
days camping in the mountains, so we would be away from the vehicle quickly, and that would give us a chance to get up and and to hide ourselves. And it just happens to be on that, you saw September 24th, 1992. That was my 38th birthday, so I was blessed by God to be able to spend my birthday waking up on the top of Mount Sinai, which was an incredible experience. Go ahead and bring up the next slide. This is actually from the top of that mountain that you saw across the valley, which we call Horeb. We managed to climb to the top of it. If you notice the date, and this was happenstance, these are the type of God things that happened to us. That is September 24th of 94. That happened to be my 40th birthday. So we were able to spend my 40th birthday on top of the other peak, which is what we call Mount Horeb.
And you can see real clearly right there how very different that the black that whole mountain is very different from all the surrounding mountains. And, you know, like I said, whether it's charred black or whether it's natural rock, it's irrelevant almost to me, because the fact that God would choose a different place to come down on. And this mountain absolutely stands apart from any of the others in the region.
Next slide. And this was the 1992 trip when we made it to the top. To the left of the screen in the center, you can't see it that well, but that is the Gulf of Aqaba. So your vantage point and your view from that location is, and it's one of the reasons why I was trying to get to the top, because we could not figure out the lay of the land. It was so convoluted and so huge that to get a perspective of where we were and where all these things fit together, that's one of the reasons why we made it to the top. The next slide.
Now, this is something, particularly for any of your viewers who may have seen pictures of this mountain, or because I'm telling you, it's all over the web. It is. There's many, many, many websites and various films and stuff that's been made thus far about this. But there's a confusion. When you're standing in the valley below and you're looking up, we've got it circled in red. Everyone thinks that in that circle is the top of the mountain. And in reality, it's nowhere near the top of the mountain.
Really?
These areas are so large. Yeah, go ahead. If that same circle, we are now up on the top looking down. And that circle that you see is the same black peak you just saw from the other side.
Really?
So it's really the first peak that you see from the valley. But the valley, the angles are so steep, you cannot see the real peak from the valley. So we really wanted to open this up to everyone to show them that little thing where it says campsite. There's a tiny little blue dot in the middle of that little circle, and that's our tent. So we still kept climbing that black peak you see. The first peak you see from the valley floor is on the left. That little blue tent is where that middle arrow is, and the real top of the mountain is right up there.
Oh, my
so,
a mile and a half from the valley. It's enormous. And again, Moses could have been up there for 40 days and been missing because there's no way that you would see him, you know, at the top of the mountain. And then the next slide. And then this gives you a perspective of what we're talking about, the location. You see Mount Horeb to the north of, and Mount Sinai to the south of. And just to put them on a geographical map and their relationship to each other. A little skewed north and south.
Mount Horeb looks like granite. Is
yes,
it granite?
It is.
It's a
but Mount Sinai
granite.
doesn't look like the same.
It's actually a bluish stone that is basalt. Some of the geologists called it original earth. That's what they call it. That was their name for it. And it has a blackened patina, which is desert varnish, they call it, on it. But from the crater area, we talked about it in the roll-in, and if you're in that place where we believe the 70 elders went, where they could see God at a distance, that stone has cast a blue hue that is very, very much like the sky. And it talks about the sapphire pavement under the feet of God as being blue or sapphire, as if it were as clear as the heavens. And you can see that it blends right into the blueness of the sky. Just another, another little thing about this place that is so incredibly significant. Do we want to? Yeah,
let's go ahead. If you'll pull the next one up. This was brought to our attention by Dr. Glenn Fritz. He's a very dear friend. He is a geographer, PhD. He has a magnificent work he has just released called The Lost Sea of the Exodus, and it's a geographical analysis. And, of course, he did most of his research on where the crossing site would have been. But he brought this to our attention a number of years ago, and this is really profound, the insight he had about this particular thing.
We were listening to a teaching on this last night, but this is, from his, as a geographer, he went back to the Greek, and he studied this, and he called us up one day, and he was really excited. He said, guys, you will not believe what this says. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, Galatians 4:25. and 26. He says, where it says this Mount Sinai is in Arabia, that's pretty self-evident, right? I mean, that's Paul speaking. Yeah, it's in Arabia.
God
But he
knew the
said
difference between Arabia and Egypt.
yeah, a lot of difference, you would think. And then it says, and answereth to Jerusalem. He said that term is used once in the Bible, and it's a geography. It's a term that's used only in geography, where you're describing to march in a straight line. And he said the other term that's a once use in the Bible is above. And he said that means to the north of. So literally you could say that Jerusalem is north of Mount Sinai in a straight line due south.
Oh.
So the next slide brings us to that line coming down from Jerusalem due south on the same line of longitude, passes right between this Mount Horeb and Mount Sinai.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh, that is amazing.
Isn't that, I mean, we saw that and just danced about for quite a while.
How
because
literal the scripture is
Exactly.
in its
Yes.
descriptions.
Exactly.
So again, you have to be at the right location to be able to determine these things. If you were looking for that connection at the traditional site, it doesn't work because
Right.
it's to the southwest of Jerusalem. So it doesn't make any sense. So again, you know, as we see these things unfold, it's amazing. Do we want to go to the altar?
Yeah,
pillars?
let's go ahead. We're doing well here.
This will be the.
Oh, you're talking about the video?
Yeah, well, just a quick on the photo that's up. We're seeing Mount Horeb and Mount Sinai, and then there's another box to the right at the bottom. It says Altar, Corral, Pillars, and Elijah's Cave. Just to let you know that it's located on the east side of Mount Sinai and where it is in relationship to the rest of it. So go ahead and roll in Altar, Pillars.
Next to it is a slaughter platform and the altar. The stream bed can be seen running behind and around the corral, as well as the white pillars out in front. From well inside the forbidden fence, I soon discovered the Saudis had completed a partial excavation of this site in 1996. You can plainly see the outlines of the slaughter platform and the corral directly behind it. Next to that is a pit, complete with layer upon layer of ash, and the access area to the sacrificial altar. In Exodus 24:5, young men sacrificed many oxen as peace offerings to the Lord there at Sinai. This large corral would have been necessary to lead them up to the slaughter platform. There they would have been sacrificed and the blood captured in basins, and Moses would have placed the offerings into the fire directly behind him. The altar itself was just beyond the fire, and there he sprinkled the blood. Just in front of the corral and the altars are the remains of white pillars and their foundation stones. We have found them to be made of a crude and discovered the source of this stone near the crossing site of the Red Sea. Moses built an altar and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel, as recorded in Exodus 24:4. These pillars are each of differing sizes, possibly according to the number of each tribe of Israel that they represented. As you can see, they are very, very well preserved. Looking back upward from the altar area, a large cave is visible from below. 1 Kings 19:8 and 9 tell us that Elijah came to Horeb, mountain of God, and then found a cave to lodge in. This is yet another bit of evidence needed to identify Mount Sinai, found here at Jebel Lawz. I was only able to get inside this cave once, but it was well worth this spectacular view of the valley below.
You can tell even just by looking out of that cave how vast that area is out in front of that mountain. You could have put 10 million people in that valley out there. There's well enough room to have been able to
The encampment.
put the people there that the scripture says came up out of Egypt when the mixed multitude and everything. There's plenty enough room there for it.